Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. We're going to look at a couple of verses, and then we're going to look in one other book. Genesis chapter 1. Verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And now, if you will, look down to verse 26. 26, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. That doesn't mean creepy things, it's creeping. Well, there are some creepy things on the earth, I gotta say that. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So Genesis, out the gate, establishes this fact that God is the creator of all things, and he created humans in his image to have dominion over the earth and to multiply and all these things there in Genesis 1. All right, with that in mind, turn over to Psalm 19. Psalm 19. This is a beautiful section of Scripture. Psalm chapter 19. Beginning in verse 1. The heavens declare the glory of God. They declare what? All right, we're all awake this morning. All right, the glory of God. And the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. What a beautiful passage about creation and what it does. Once again, I want you to notice in verse 3 of this chapter, it says, there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. The voice of what? The heavens, the creation, the voice of the heavens that is heard in every language, every tongue, on every continent. That's what it's saying. Everywhere where there's people, they hear the message being declared by creation itself. And what is that message that is declaring day and night? His glory. So everyone, no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter what cultural background you might have, the creation is declaring the glory of God. That is the knowledge that it is speaking every single day. Every single sunrise and sunset is declaring the glory of God. So how does God communicate to us? This is going to be a two-part sermon, really. So next week is also going to be how does God communicate to us, because we're going to talk about two main ways God communicates to us. And the first one we're going to talk about today is something called, you ready for this? Really complicated. General revelation. General revelation. I'm going to tell you what it means, and then it'll just be really simple in your head. All right, but let's say that together. Let's say general revelation. General revelation. All right, welcome to class. Just kidding. All right, a revelation, right? That's a word that we don't exactly use every day. Sometimes, man, I had a revelation. I didn't eat lunch today. That's maybe kind of a simple way we might use that, but generally we don't really use that word. But a revelation, just to make sure we're all on the same page, is a making plain, making clear, or an unfolding of what is hidden. So it's something that wasn't known before, but is known now. It's been revealed. It's a revelation, a revealing of something. All right? So you might say that when the cloud moved and I could see the sun, there was a revelation of the sun. The sun was revealed. The clouds moved and the sun was revealed behind it. A revelation. Now, when we talk about general revelation, which is a type of revealing, it means two different things when we talk about it being general. Okay? The first is that it's general in the sense that it is knowledge given to everyone. Knowledge given to everyone. We just read that in the verse. That the creation is declaring to everyone the glory of God. So it's general in that it's for everyone. And everyone in the world, and everyone who's ever existed, and everyone who has access to information. All right, there's a second sense in which it's general. All right, so it's general in that it's to everyone, but it's also general in the sense that it's basic information. So it's to everyone, and it's basic information. It's not detailed. So while the creation is declaring the glory of God, it might not give us the specifics of all the things of what God is like. We might get some ideas, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it doesn't tell us the specifics about who God is like and what he's done for us. It's just basic information. It doesn't reveal to us very many specifics. All right, so the definition. General revelation is the word, and it is basic knowledge revealed to everyone. General knowledge is basic knowledge revealed to everyone. So let's say that together so we can remember. General revelation is basic knowledge revealed to everyone. All right. That being said, people can what? People can deny the knowledge given in creation. We all can do that. Any one of us can do that. Anyone in the world can deny the knowledge that's readily available. Let me give an example. Now, I know this rings true for me. Your context might be different. Maybe it's at home. Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's with a spouse. Maybe it's with a coworker. Maybe it's with a roommate. But have you gone to look for something somewhere? And you swear that's where it was. But it's not there. So, what do? We blame somebody. And so I might go to my wife and say, honey, why did you move my iPad off the desk? And she'll look at me and say, I didn't. And she might also say, it's still there. Right? Or maybe you might say, hey, have you seen my whatever? And the person tells you, it's in the place that you just looked. No, it can't be. I just looked there. All right? So now it's frustrating, right? Now there might be a little bit of an argument. Do you think I'm stupid? I looked there, like this is ridiculous. All right. Here's where the story gets fun. Now, when you finally got over your pride and went back and looked at the same place that the person said for you to look where you've already looked, have you then found it in the place that you've already looked? Come on, be honest now. It's like, yeah, I could have swore that was not there a second ago. That's what general revelation can be like. We can look at the creation, we can look at the general information revealed to us and be, I don't see it. It could be there, but you just might not see it. It's not that it isn't there. It can just be honest, I don't see it. Or it can be a suppressing of that information. I don't want to see it. I don't want to believe. I'm not going to go back and look either. I've already looked there, right? It can be like that. We can look, people can look, we can look, and then look again and see that it is there actually. So that's general revelation. Basic knowledge revealed to everyone. We might not notice it. We might repress it, but it's there. All right, forgive me. I'm going to have to teach you one other term today. All right. You don't have to remember the terms, but it will help you to remember what we talked about today. So general revelation can help us determine something called natural theology. Man, we're going in deep. Natural theology, let's say that together. Natural theology. Natural theology is basic things about God, because theology is the study of God. So it's basic things that we can know or determine about God without any kind of special revelation. That's why it's called natural theology. We learn it from nature. We learn it from what nature reveals to us in God's creation. All right, so that's saying, what is the theology that I can learn about God without special revelation, without God's word, without any special insight from any type of, any supernatural event showing me anything, just existing in the world? What is the natural theology? What are the things that I can know about God in a basic way? So that's what general revelation does. General revelation, that's what's revealed to everyone, can help us determine some natural theology. It helps us determine some normal things that everyone can know about God. They might not see it, they might deny it, but the information's available. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, don't worry. Next week, we'll talk about special revelation. I know I mentioned a third term there. Well, next week will all be about special revelation, and it'll be really fun. You'll enjoy that. All right. Not a whole lot of new terms next week. Just one. Just special revelation. Just one term. All right. Now, we're going to talk about general revelation and how we come up with natural theology of this. Here we go. Most theologians divide general revelation into two categories because there only seems to be two categories. And the first one is creation. Creation. Now, the second category we're going to talk about in a minute is technically part of the creation, but there's so many more things you can talk about it, so it's like a subcategory of it. But we'll get to that one in a second. All right, the first category is what? Oh, good. I didn't tell you the second one. I was going to make something up. All right. The existence of creation, at the very least, very bottom tier here, at the very least reveals a powerful and glorious force. Now, people can deny that, and they can come up with ideas of why, no, but at the very least, it reveals a powerful, glorious force behind this. You can look at creation and determine logically that a powerful and glorious force beyond this world made all of this. Now, science and our own everyday experience tells us something about how the world works, and that's this, that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. We know that from just experience, and we know that from science, from testing that. Now, some skeptics of God who don't look at creation and say, I don't see it, or repress it, they'll sometimes say, ha, well, then who created God? Gotcha! I just demolished the Christian worldview. Who created, if everything that begins to exist has a cause, then who caused God? Well, except if you listen closely, what I said was everything that what? Begins to exist must have a cause. So this is not a contradiction for a Christian. This is not a contradiction of our worldview. It can logically follow that if the universe began to exist, it has a cause, right? But it also can logically follow that if God never began to exist, he must not have a cause. If he has no beginning, then he doesn't need a cause. That's not a contradiction at all. So the existence of creation, at the very least, reveals a powerful and glorious force, a force that we all refer to as God. People can use any fancy word they want to use, like, it was a special alien, it was, a thing we can't define. It can, whatever term you want to use, we can use the term God and generally say we're speaking about the same thing. You're just using a different term. You're playing semantics at that point. All right, so that's one thing. That's the very base of creation. The second thing is this. The organization of creation reveals a designer. Now, especially people who are skeptics against God and the Christian God, they really don't like this one at all. And there's some aspects where I understand their dislike for it, but there's some things that they cannot deny. So as we read in the text this morning, right, in Psalm 19, I think it's the first verse, the second half of that verse said that the firmament or that means the sky above shows or proclaims his handiwork, proclaims God's handiwork. The sky above proclaims God's handiwork. You see, science shows us that the design of the universe is so precise. This is amazing. This is amazing. You can do some research on this. The design of the universe is so precise that if the mathematical constants for the universe were to be any different by a hair, I don't mean like by a number. I don't mean by like half of a number. I mean literally by a hair. If it were to change by a hair, we wouldn't exist. The mathematical constants that have to be constant for us to be in existence, changed by a hair, we don't exist. So science has proven that the universe is fine-tuned. So here's something Christians and atheists, believers and non-believers agree on. The universe is fine-tuned. That doesn't mean that we don't see bad things happening in the world or natural disasters or seeing sickness, but everyone agrees across the board that the universe is fine-tuned, because if it wasn't fine-tuned, we wouldn't exist. The argument comes into play of how did it get fine-tuned? Why is everything at just the right distance? Why are all the numbers just the right way for us to exist? So those who refuse the idea of a designer but say that the universe is fine-tuned will say that this is my favorite. You ready for this? Ready? Here we go. I'm really not going to try to make fun of people who hold this position, but it's kind of hard. It's fine-tuned not because it's been designed, but because it has to be. I'm not the smartest person. I know that. But isn't that just circular reasoning? Why is it fine-tuned? Because it has to be. Why does it have to be? Because it has to be fine-tuned. Because it has to be. Except even scientists, believers or unbelievers, logically are like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't follow through. There is no reason to believe that. Now you can say that, and you can believe that if you want to, but there is no logical, scientific, there is no foundation for that. Okay, they have another one. This one's better. Others might say that it is not because of a designer, it's because of chance. Now this is way better than it has to be, but not by much. By chance. Basically, they have this idea of there's an infinite number of universes constantly coming into existence. So it's like this multiverse theory where there's an infinite amount of universes. And so basically, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but think of it as there's a universe-making machine. And it's just popping out universes. Now, let me ignore the fact that if there's a type of scientific machine that's creating universes infinitely, it's kind of ignoring the fact that that would have to be fine-tuned. So it doesn't really solve fine-tuned problem, because it brings you back to another problem. But the idea is you have this infinite amount of universes coming to existence because everything that begins to exist has to have a cause besides this machine. And then here we go, and then here we go. Oh, we drew the lucky number. We can live on this one. Now life can evolve and exist on this one. That's basically that theory, is basically we won the lottery, and that's the only reason we're here. Pure luck. Pure luck. Drew the lottery. Here we exist. Okay, it's an interesting theory. The problem with it is there's no evidence for it scientifically. I'm not just saying that as a Christian. Like, I've looked into this. There is, even the scientists are like, hey, we have this theory, but they have nothing to back it up. It's just, we have a theory. It's not God. It's this way because it has to be. It's not God. There's a machine that creates this infinite amount of universes, and we drew the lucky one. Now, obviously, yeah, you like the machine one? That's good. Now, here's another problem with that theory. The percentage chance of pulling the lucky number and having a planet that could be like this by chance. Here's the thing. It's such a small number that when you did draw it, it wouldn't be this. It'd be much smaller, and maybe it could support one living being of some kind. It's so small that it still doesn't produce what we actually witness in creation. All right? So once again, I'm not trying to straw man anything. My understanding is, besides God, we have two arguments. Infinite amount of universes coming into existence and it's being lucky, or it exists this way because it has to be. Those are the only two arguments I'm aware of for explaining away a powerful God creating the universe that we live in. So that leaves us with this. If it's not either of those, the universe is looks designed because it was. That's what it leaves us with. So not luck, not a machine. It's designed because it has a designer. That logically follows through. That is not crazy. The organization of creation reveals a designer. All right, so we exist. We talked about that already. So that shows at the very least there's a powerful force. I'm saying God that had to be bigger than all of this. Then you have the design of it. It couldn't just be a machine or be whatever. There's too much intricate design of the universe down mathematically to this very thing. The third thing about creation is this, is that the existence of humans reveals an intelligent living being. Well, how could that be? This is getting really interesting now. Right? We're just talking about, we look at creation, what do we notice? You see, if the creation declares to us that a powerful, glorious designer exists, it also declares that he's not just an idea or an inanimate object, but a living, intelligent being. Because if he were anything less, we would not know life or intelligence. We would simply exist as an object or an idea, but we would not be alive as we know ourselves to be. We wouldn't be discussing the issues of the day and talking about politics and trying to figure out how to solve world hunger and trying to figure out how to have clean water in places and have our gathering today and talking about truth and all of these things. We wouldn't be able to enjoy the things we like to do and express all these emotions and all these things. We have this sense of intelligence and living and emotion and experiencing life. So whatever creative power God made us has to at least have those capabilities, if not be beyond them. So he's got to be also at least as intelligent as we are. But obviously it shows there's more than that because of the design and how many people there are and all of these things that are going on. It reveals that he has to be an intelligent living being, not just an idea, not some sort of machine spitting out universes. There has to be an intentionality behind it, an intelligence behind it. Now, we are talking about this from what we can see, but Scripture does talk about this. And this is an argument. I'm making this argument this morning. I'm not the first Christian to make this argument. This argument was made in the Bible. In Acts chapter 17, I'll just read it for you, in 28 and 29, it says, "In him we live and move and have our being." He's witnessing to unbelievers. In the Creator we live, we move, and have our being, as even some of your own poets have said. And here, now he's going to quote something that a pagan has written. Like, I'm not even going to quote, he's not quoting the Bible. He's just, hey, your own poets have said, "For we are indeed his offspring." Being then God's offspring, or saying even in your worldview, you believe that we came from God, like we came from something, we came into existence. We ought not to think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination of man. So this is the argument that he is proclaiming in Acts 17 to these unbelievers. He's saying, hey, even in your own worldview, even in your own walk of life, you have poets that have talked about how you've come from God, that somehow you're from God. And he's saying, and you know this to be true. Why would you think of God as an idol or just some sort of idea or imagination of man? Have you heard that? Christians just imagine God exists because they need him to exist for their own, to feel better, makes them sleep better at night. Right? That type of a thing. He's saying, no. You know that because you exist as an intelligent, living being, that you come from something or from someone that has to be more than a carved out stone or an idea in a book or something that I could explain to you. It's bigger than that. Or I love how Psalm 94:9 says it. It says, he who planted the ear, does he not hear? Or he who formed the eye, does he not see? And so here the psalmist is saying, listen, if we can see things and hear things and experience things, cannot the Creator who made us also see and hear? So the existence of humans reveals an intelligent living being. Now, like I said, this is basic information, but we're learning quite a lot. There's a lot we can learn by looking out at the creation and saying, wow, there's a powerful force. There's a design behind this. There has to be an intelligent, personal, living being behind this because we're intelligent living beings. So in light of these things, you can look at the creation and determine logically that what? That we're not in charge. Like if you're looking at these things, oh man, life is not all about me. I am not in charge. I am not my own God. Whoever made all of this is in charge of the universe. I couldn't have done any of this. I'm not my own God. Romans 1:20 puts it this way. It says, his, God's, invisible attributes, the things that we can't see, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. The Apostle Paul is saying here, same thing that I'm saying this morning, is that if you look at the creation, there's things that you can know about God. You can know there's a divine being, a powerful, glorious divine being, and that message has been declared for all time. We are not in charge. We are not our own gods. We can determine that by looking at the heavens, by looking at nature. All right, so that was the first subject, which was what? Creation. Sorry, I give you too many words this morning. There you go. This whole message is about general revelation. We're learning natural theology, and the first category was creation. All right, so here's the second one. All right, forget all those other words. Just remember these two. All right, creation, and the next one, conscience. All right, those are the two main ones. If you forget the other words, it's fine. But creation and conscience reveal stuff to us, basic knowledge about God, and that's available to everyone. All right, that's the main thing. Creation and conscience. And conscience, this is amazing. All right, here we go. Conscience. Everybody say conscience. All right, that's what we're in now. All right, last week, I think this is the first time I've done that. I'm going to quote myself this morning, which is kind of weird. Okay, but I just want to remind us what we said. Last week I said that, quote, the lack of objective truth would be the end of fair judgment. No one could make claims on any ethical or moral matters with any level of certainty. There would be no right versus wrong. There would only be different opinions in regards to morality and ethics, end quote. And that's, if there's no sense of truth, then we can't argue that's unjust, that's unfair, that's immoral. By what standard is that unjust, unfair, and immoral? By your standard? By my standard? By some guy who wrote a book standard? By whose standard? By what country's standard? By what nation's standard? Like, you just start making claims about what's fair and unfair, but if truth doesn't matter, then you can't really get anywhere. But here's the reality. We all have a sense of morality. Everybody does. Everybody does. You never have to tell someone that it's fair that someone stole something from them. Someone stole something? Oh, interesting. No one's just chill about being stolen from. No one's chill about their life being threatened or a loved one being killed by someone. They intrinsically know it's wrong. They know that. Why? Why is there this intrinsic insight to morality? People who've never read a book or never been out in the world and never experienced, if something is done wrong to them, they know that they have had something done wrong to them. Now, we all naturally have, to a degree, a sense of right and wrong. We have a sense of fair and unfair. We have a sense of moral and immoral, just and unjust. Now, are there people, I got to mention this, are there people in our world, and who've been in our world, who live with entirely seared consciences that seem to lack any sense of morality? Yes, absolutely. And that's either because they've given themselves over to Satan, or with some people, it's because of a disability that has caused them not to be able to think clearly. Whatever that is, there are people. What's that? Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. Whether we want to go with that, crazy or demon possessed, all right? So here we go. You have this crazy thing where there are people with seared, entirely consciences. And someone might say that and go, see, we don't have an intrinsic thing, except we all notice when someone in the room or in the news clearly has a seared conscience, there isn't a question of whether or not this person is immoral. It's just go, wow, this person is a serial killer. This is terrible. No one goes, I wonder if this was right or wrong. No, we intrinsically know that this person has a seared conscience. Like, how could someone do these evil things just as a human, right? And so we sense that already. That's an outlier. We recognize that kind of person really quickly. And I had in my notes, because you said Jeffrey Dahmer, I said, these are the type of people that Netflix documentaries are made out of, all right? Why are Netflix documentaries made about it? Because everybody's like, this one's weird, right? And people like watching weird stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but no one thinks that it's cool or okay. So are there people, all right, so that's one category, people with a seared conscience. Now, are there people that, even in that natural sense of morality, push against that natural sense of morality? Yes. And if we're honest, we all do, depending on what it is and at what time and if it benefits us. We don't like being lied to, but we'll lie if it suits our need, right? That'd be an example of that. How long do people lie to me? Oh, but I'm going to lie to this person because I don't, right? And so we push against these natural inclinations about morality. We all push against it. And within that basic idea of morality, obviously, there's a disagreement among humans on how to uphold justice and how to live morally when it comes to specifics. Once again, we're talking generally. We're talking about what can we learn in a general sense. We'll argue, okay, is this the best way to handle this, or is this the best way to handle it? Is that immoral, or is this immoral? There's debate against it, but in a general sense, we have a general idea of right and wrong, even if we disagree on the specifics. And all of us tend to push against it, or be hypocrites in it, or require that other people follow that morality, but don't require that for yourself, right? That just kind of happens naturally. Also, all humans find themselves failing to truly behave the way that they think we all should. We all hold people. We might have low standards or high standards, but we all hold people to some kind of standard. And we all fail at too. But once again, the question is this: why do we have that intrinsic sense of morality, that intrinsic sense of just and unjust? Well, in special revelation in the Bible, we have in Romans chapter 2, 14 and 15, that says that those who do not have the law, okay, they don't have a written moral code from God, they don't have it, by nature or naturally do what the law requires. They are a law to themselves. Even though they do not have the law, the written law, they show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience also bears witness. And so while, once again, we might not be nailed down the specifics, but on the general sense of justice and morality, we're a judge unto ourselves if we don't know the written law, when we push against our own conscience. We don't want to be stolen from, but we'll steal. We don't want anyone to kill us, but we'll kill. We don't want anyone to lie to us, but we'll lie. And so we're breaking God's law, that the general law that's written on our hearts, on our conscience. The Bible's teaching that everyone is accountable to God for committing immorality. Because the heavens declare the glory of God. And when you push against your God-given conscience, you're pushing against God. Even if they've never seen the written law of God, their heart, their conscience bears witness to themselves that they've pushed back against an intrinsic morality written on their hearts. Now, I don't want to lose you here. I want to share this quote from you from my favorite author, C.S. Lewis, who dealt with this issue. And here's why it's important to share what he said. Not just because he was a great author, not just because he was a Christian, but because he used to be an atheist. So he can speak on this in a way that I can't. Here's what he wrote. Quote, "My argument against God was that the universe seemed so cruel and unjust. But how had I got this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. What was I comparing the universe with when I called it unjust? If the whole show was bad and senseless from A to Z, so to speak, why did I, who was supposed to be part of the show, find myself in such violent reaction against it? A man feels wet when he falls into water, because man is not a water animal. A fish would not feel wet. Of course, I could have given up my idea of justice by saying it was nothing but a private idea of my own. But if I did that, then my argument against God collapsed too. For the argument depended upon saying that the world was really unjust, not simply that it did not happen to please my fancies. Thus, in the very act of trying to prove that God did not exist, in other words, that the whole of reality was senseless, I found I was forced to assume that one part of reality, namely my idea of justice, was full of sense. Consequently, atheism turns out to be too simple. If the whole universe has no meaning, we should never have found out that it has no meaning. Just as if there were no light in the universe and therefore no creatures with eyes, we would never know it was dark. Dark would be a word without meaning. I love that quote. He's not trying to blow any smoke or do smoke and mirrors and straw man. He's being honest. I was an atheist, and my argument against God was that the world is unjust, but then I realized if I could have a sense of justice, then there has to be something beyond myself. It became a self-defeating argument. So we have the creation and we have our conscience. That's general revelation. And those are some of the things that we can naturally deduce about things about God just by looking at creation, looking at conscience, and say, wow, there is a God who is powerful and glorious and moral and personal. So, to wrap things up this morning, to you who are a believer, to the Christian this morning, have you been going through life so quickly that you've not paused to look at the creation that God has designed, to appreciate what He's done, to rest in the beauty of His creation? This is something that God did. After 6 days of creation, what did He do on the seventh day? He rested in it. In fact, His people, the Israelites, the nation of Israel, He called them to do the same thing. Work 6 days, enjoy the creation on the seventh. Now, I don't believe there's any argument to be made here of Christians having to keep the Sabbath. That was a sign of the Old Covenant for the nation of Israel. But from creation, God set this example of a seventh day. Hey, I have everything that I need. Creation's done. I have everything that I need. And for us, when we choose to stop for one moment, we're saying, I don't have to work for more and to get this or to have this much more clout or to be able to get this many more views or try to get this much more attention, make this much more money. We say, God, I have everything that I need. We pause and go, wow, your creation is glorious. I'll give some examples that you might not think of. So have you paused? Now we're going to have some more snow this month. You guys ready for that? You guys excited for some snow? I grew up here, and I have a hard time appreciating the snow. I got to be honest. But in the midst of shoveling the snow, have we stopped to recognize the beauty of an individual snowflake and been like, wow. God didn't have to design the universe in a way that when it snowed, snowflakes would have this really cool, beautiful design. Or the joy of sledding down a hill or snowboarding or skiing or whatever it is you like to do in snow. Don't just think, oh man, this is a pain to drive in, I got to show us out. But there's also some beauty in it, and pausing to notice that. Have you paused when enjoying a delicious meal? To not only just thank God for his provision, I'm going to pray and thank God for the food, but to enjoy the flavors of that food, to learn what you can do with food to make it taste better. That's a part of the creation. There's a lot of cultures that understand this. I think American culture stinks at it because what we glorify is working 7 days a week. What we glorify is, I'll rest when I'm dead. That's not good. That's not healthy because when we don't pause to worship God in the creation, we make it all about us. When we don't pause, we're saying, I'm not dependent upon God, I'm dependent on what I can accomplish. Have you paused to just listen to a song? Now, I don't mean a song on the background. I do that. I like to have music on the background sometimes if I'm doing something. But I mean, our technology's changed so much. You never used to be able to pull up your phone and play a song or just have the radio on. I mean, you used to have to go travel somewhere and watch people play the instruments or sing the song in order to hear music or sing yourself in your home with your family. There was no, all right, I'm going to play this YouTube video, I'm going to play this song. Like, we just have music access, and sometimes music can just become noise. But have you paused to listen to the beauty of a song? That's a gift from God. These type of things, these gifts from God, are designed for humans to enjoy, and we glorify God in our enjoyment of them. Now, just so no one puts any words in my mouth, do not worship the creation. That's stupid. That's really foolish. I'm not saying this like, all right, yeah, food's amazing. Let's get more of that. Let's pile it. Let's have 7 meals a day. And I'm like, no, there's a scripture about that too. No, I don't mean we worship the creation, but you can worship the Creator by enjoying and thanking Him for the gifts that we have in creation. And we'll talk more about that tonight at 5 o'clock in our Bible study. We'll talk more about what that can look like in our families and how we plan out our lives and how we do these things. Because let me just tell you, I get it. People can be in financial situations where they have to work multiple jobs. And it is like you work through those difficult things. Like you do that. But we have to know when to stop. We have to know when to pause. We better work hard and pay our bills and do all those things and take care of our families. But none of that can replace or fill the time that you spend worshiping God, the time you spend in interacting with your family and your loved ones. At the end of your life, you're not going to say, I wish I would have worked harder and made more money. I wish I would have made my product more whatever. No, but you will say, I wish I would have spent more time enjoying the things that God created us to enjoy and appreciate. Right? All right, so we'll talk more about that tonight. But to those that are unbelievers, right? I in no way, and I made some jokes, I'm in no way trying to make fun of, mock people in any way with this. They might find general revelation to be really unconvincing. And I've already admitted that it's not very specific, right? We don't look at the creation and know that Jesus came to the cross to die for our sins so that we could be forgiven and have eternal life in heaven. I cannot determine that by looking at the creation. That's right. So I can't prove that by looking at creation, right? In fact, I don't think I can convince an atheist to become a believer by showing them general revelation, because it's the Spirit of God that has to change someone's life. But here's what I would ask for the unbeliever when these type of conversations come up, of things like, well, evolution proves that God doesn't exist, or this proves that God doesn't, and there's some really simple response that we can have of like, hey, I see where you're coming from, but I don't think you've thought through this all the way yet. Because if that's what you're saying is true, that would mean this, and that doesn't seem to be the case, right? It begins to unravel when you just ask some questions about the foundation of that worldview. So what I would say to the unbeliever, we talked about this morning when we first started, just go back where you've looked before and see if it's there. See if God's there. Maybe someone's already come to conclusions. I know it's offensive to say look again. I already looked there. But I would encourage the unbeliever, the skeptic, the atheist, would you just look? Humor me as a believer, and just go back and look and see if there's anything there. Just a hint at all of anything that you might notice, instead of just hammering down on that unbelief.